morning, everyone. Let me start by asking you this. What would you do if there were no limits on what you could achieve? And if so, where would you begin? Now hold that thought. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the waves crashing against the rocks below. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and every part of you screams, "Stay safe!" But deep down, there's a whisper, an invitation to leap. That moment is the exact space where transformation begins. Today, I'm here to challenge you to leap, not literally off a cliff, but out of your comfort zone, to push yourself past the boundaries of what feels safe, what feels comfortable, and into the realm of true potential. Because let me tell you this, the life you're meant to live doesn't exist inside your comfort zone. It begins where you think you can't go. Whew. Why does this matter? Because growth is never born from ease. If you watch this speech till the end, you'll walk away with the tools to turn fear into fuel, build unshakable resilience, and discover the extraordinary version of yourself that's been waiting for you to take the leap. I'm not here to motivate you, I'm here to provoke you. So let's get started. What are you really capable of? And more importantly, are you ready to find out? Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room, everything feels just fine, nothing is particularly challenging you, it's comfortable. But now ask yourself, how long can you stay there without feeling restless, without feeling like you're stuck? Comfort zones, while cozy and reassuring, are deceptive. They feel safe, but they're not where growth happens. Growth is messy, uncertain, and yes, uncomfortable. That's the truth many don't want to hear, but it's the truth that sets extraordinary individuals apart. Let me take you to a moment you can relate to. A time when you hesitated before taking a big step. Maybe it was speaking up in a meeting, trying a new skill, or confronting a fear. What stopped you? Most likely, it was that voice in your head saying, "Stay here. Don't risk it. It's easier this way." That voice isn't your protector, it's your limiter. It's the wall that keeps you from experiencing what lies beyond your potential. And here's the catch. Breaking through that wall isn't about a monumental act of bravery. It starts with a single decision to take one step outside the familiar. Oh. When you push past that invisible boundary, something remarkable happens. You realize the walls you thought were holding you back weren't real. They were mental constructs. And every time you challenge those constructs, they weaken and your limits expand. You start doing things you once thought were impossible. The fear doesn't vanish, but it transforms. It shifts from being a roadblock to being a guide, pointing you toward what truly matters. This is why breaking comfort barriers is essential. Growth isn't just about reaching goals, it's about becoming the person who can. Think of anyone you admire, not for their fame, but for their strength, resilience, or vision. They didn't achieve those qualities by staying in a safe, predictable bubble. They pushed themselves into the unknown, often failing, but always learning. The process forged them into who they are. Duh. Now, imagine what's possible for you. Imagine what could happen if, instead of staying in that quiet, comfortable room, you chose to walk out into the unpredictable, exhilarating world of your own potential. Sure, it's scary. Sure, you might stumble, but every step you take outside that comfort zone builds the foundation for a life of fulfillment, achievement, and meaning. Yeah. So the next time you're faced with an opportunity that feels daunting, don't retreat. Lean in. That's where the magic. Comfort zones are like invisible cages. They don't have locks or barriers you can see, but they keep you confined all the same. You feel safe inside them, shielded from risks, failure, and discomfort. But here's the harsh truth: comfort zones are traps. They lull you into a false sense of security, convincing you that staying put is the better option, when in reality, they're robbing you of growth, excitement, and fulfillment. I feel alive every single day because they keep me confined all the time. Why do so many of us cling to these comfort zones? Because stepping out feels risky. It exposes us to uncertainty, potential criticism, or even failure. But what we fail to see is that staying in our comfort zone has a cost too, and it's much higher. The cost is stagnation. The cost is mediocrity. The cost is looking back one day and realizing you've lived a small life when you had the capacity for so much more. Breaking out of a comfort zone doesn't mean leaping into the unknown without a plan. It's not about recklessness, it's about progression. It's about understanding that growth only happens when you're willing to test your limits. Think about it. Every great achievement in your life has come from stepping into discomfort. The first time you rode a bike without training wheels, gave a presentation, or pursued something you weren't entirely sure you could do. In every one of those moments, you left the familiar behind, and that's where the growth happened. But here's the catch: breaking comfort barriers is not a one time event, it's a habit. It's a muscle you have to build by repeatedly putting yourself in situations that challenge you. The more you do it, the more resilient and adaptable you become. What once felt impossible starts to feel achievable. Your comfort zone expands, and with it, so does your capacity to take on bigger challenges. Okay. What's fascinating is how your mind and body respond to this process. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your heart races, doubt creeps in, and your instincts scream for you to retreat. But when you push through those moments, you realize they're temporary. The discomfort fades, and in its place comes a sense of pride, confidence, and momentum. Each time you break through, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you believed. And that belief is transformative. Imagine a life where you consistently challenge yourself to go beyond what feels easy. The opportunities you'd seize, the skills you'd master, and the experiences you'd gain would be limitless. Now imagine the opposite: a life where you never take risks, never challenge yourself, and never grow. It's a bleak thought, isn't it? The choice is yours. You can stay in the comfortable cage of familiarity or step out into the unknown and claim the growth, success, and fulfillment waiting for you. Breaking comfort barriers isn't just an option, it's a necessity. Because comfort zones might feel safe, but they'll never take you where you're meant to go. Fear, it's a powerful force, isn't it? It grips you, freezes you in place, and convinces you that stepping forward is too dangerous. Most of us spend our lives running from fear, avoiding it at all costs as if it's the enemy. But what if I told you that fear isn't your adversary, it's your ally? What if fear is actually a signal, a guide, pointing you toward the very things that have the power to change your life? The truth is, fear isn't something to be avoided. It's something to be understood, embraced, and harnessed. Think about it. Fear only shows up when you're on the verge of something significant. You don't feel fear when you're sitting comfortably doing something you've done 1,000 times before. You feel it when you're about to step into the unknown, take a risk, or push beyond your limits. Fear arises in moments that matter. Fear arises in moments that matter. It's a sign that you're about to grow. Yet for most of us, fear becomes a roadblock. We let it dictate our actions, pulling us back into safety instead of moving forward into opportunity. But fear, when harnessed correctly, can be a source of incredible power. It sharpens your focus, raises your energy, and prepares you for action. The key is learning how to channel it, how to turn it into fuel instead of a chain that holds you back. Um, the first step is to reframe how you see fear. Instead of viewing it as something negative, see it as an invitation. Fear isn't there to stop you, it's there to alert you. It's saying, pay attention, this matters. When you start to see fear as a guide, you begin to understand that the things you're most afraid of often align with your greatest opportunities for growth. It's in those moments of fear that you're standing at the edge of your comfort zone, and stepping forward means breaking through into something greater. Embracing fear doesn't mean ignoring it or pretending it's not there. It means acknowledging it and then taking action anyway. The moment you face fear head on, you strip it of its power. You realize it's not as big or as insurmountable as it seemed. And with every step you take, the fear shrinks while your confidence grows. Fear has a funny way of transforming once you engage with it. What once felt terrifying becomes exhilarating. The things you were afraid of yesterday become the stepping stones for tomorrow's success. And every time you conquer a fear, you gain momentum. You prove to yourself that you're capable of so much more than you thought. So the next time you feel fear, don't run from it, lean into it. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? What is it guiding me toward? Because fear isn't the enemy, it's the key. And when you learn to harness it, there's nothing you can't achieve. Resilience is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean? At its core, resilience is the ability to keep going when everything in you is screaming to stop. It's the strength to rise after a fall, to adapt in the face of adversity, and to keep pushing forward no matter how hard life pushes back. It's not something you're born with, it's something you build, and it's built by testing your limits again and again. The truth is, resilience is forged in the fire of discomfort and challenge. Think about how muscles grow. You don't get stronger by lifting what's easy. You get stronger by lifting what challenges you, what makes you struggle. The same principle applies to your mind and your spirit. Every time you face a setback and choose to rise again, every time you push through something difficult, you're building resilience. And it's not easy, but that's the point. Resilience is a muscle. And like any muscle, it requires resistance to grow. But let's be real, resilience doesn't come from small, safe challenges. It comes from being knocked down and having to get back up. It comes from stepping into situations where failure is not just possible, but likely. And when you fail, and you will, that's when the real work begins. Because resilience isn't about avoiding failure, it's about how you respond to it. Do you let it define you, or do you let it refine you? Here's something most people don't understand. Resilience isn't just about endurance, it's about transformation. When you face challenges head on, when you push through pain and discomfort, you don't just survive, you grow. You learn about your limits and, more importantly, how to extend them. You develop the mental toughness to face even greater challenges in the future. And that's what resilience is all about. It's not just bouncing back, it's bouncing forward. Think about the most resilient people you know. They're not the ones who've had an easy life. They're the ones who've faced struggles, setbacks, and failures and come out stronger because of them. They've been shaped by their experiences, not broken by them. They've learned to see obstacles as opportunities to grow, to become better, tougher, and more capable. So, how do you build resilience? By consistently stepping into the uncomfortable, by taking on challenges that scare you, that push you to your limits, by understanding that every setback is a setup for a comeback. And most importantly, by never giving up, no matter how hard it gets, no matter resilience is your superpower. It's what allows you to keep going when the odds are stacked against you. Um, it's what turns adversity into advantage and failure into fuel. And the more you cultivate it, the more unstoppable you become. Life will test you, no doubt about it. But with resilience, you don't just survive, you thrive.
Vision is the driving force behind everything we do. Without it, we're like a ship adrift in an open sea with no destination and no purpose. But with a clear vision, we're able to navigate life's challenges with direction and purpose. Vision doesn't just give you a roadmap, it fuels your journey, lights your path, and makes the difficult moments worth enduring. It's what keeps you going when the days are long, when the obstacles feel insurmountable, and when doubt starts to creep in. Having a vision is about more than just setting goals. It's about seeing beyond your current reality and believing in a future that you can create. It's about stretching your imagination, breaking through the boundaries of what you think is possible and aiming for something bigger than what you've ever known. Vision is the difference between living passively and living intentionally. When you have a vision, you don't just go through the motions. You make decisions with purpose, you make will, you make applications, you look to move away from the status quo and you apply effortlessly and successfully. So you take action with conviction. Every move you make is aligned with the bigger picture, and that alignment is what drives your success. But here's the thing, a vision is not something that magically appears. It's something you create and it's something you cultivate every day. Most people wander through life without a clear vision because they're either afraid to dream big or unsure of where they're headed. They focus on the small, day-to-day tasks and forget to look up, to look beyond. But if you want to push your limits, you need to break free from this narrow focus. You need to ask yourself, what is it that I truly want? What do I want to create in my life? What's the legacy I want to leave behind? Your vision should scare you a little because it's meant to challenge you, to push you beyond your current limitations. If your vision doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Vision isn't about comfort, it's about growth, exploration, and risk. It's about seeing something that seems impossible and committing to it anyway. It's about trusting that even though you don't have all the answers right now, you'll figure it out as you go. Vision doesn't need to be crystal clear at the start, but it needs to be big enough to inspire you and ignite a fire in your belly. When you have a compelling vision, everything changes. Your mindset shifts from I hope this works out to I will make this happen. You stop making excuses and start making progress. Your setbacks don't become reasons to quit. They become lessons that refine your approach. You start to see obstacles not as barriers, but as stepping stones. The vision becomes the reason you keep going when the going gets tough, the beacon that guides you, even when the road gets rocky. And here's the most powerful thing about vision. When you focus on something greater than yourself, you become part of something bigger than you. Your vision connects you to a sense of purpose that transcends the mundane. It becomes your mission, your reason for waking up every day and striving to be better. And in doing so, it transforms not just your life, but the lives of those around you. When you live with vision, you inspire others to do the same. And together, you create a ripple effect that leads to real change. So if you want to break through your limits, start by asking yourself, what do I really want? Find that vision and let it fuel you. Let it drive you to do things you never thought possible. Because when you have a vision that's bigger than yourself, you don't just push your limits, you shatter them. The true power of pushing your limits lies not in the extraordinary feats you accomplish, but in the everyday actions you take to challenge yourself. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of greatness, thinking that pushing your limits requires a grand gesture or a major life change. But real transformation happens through consistent, small steps and the ability to make choices that align with your greater purpose day in and day out. The process of challenging yourself isn't always glamorous, but it is always meaningful. It's about setting a standard for yourself that doesn't just reflect where you are today, but where you want to be tomorrow. So how do you begin? It starts with one simple question. What can I do today to push my limits? It doesn't matter how big or small the task is. It matters that you choose to take that step, that you refuse to let complacency define your journey. Maybe it's choosing to work a little harder, to learn something new, or to speak up when you normally wouldn't. Maybe it's taking a risk, having a tough conversation, or confronting a fear that you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, it's important to remember that pushing your limits doesn't require perfection. It requires intention and effort. It requires you to keep showing up, even on the days when it feels like you're not making any progress at all. Those moments matter because they compound over time. Think of it like building a house. You don't lay the foundation one day and expect the structure to appear the next. You build it brick by brick, each small action stacking upon the last until eventually you stand in front of something that once seemed impossible. That's the magic of pushing your limits consistently. Over time, your small actions turn into significant growth, and what once felt out of reach becomes a reality. The power of consistency also lies in its ability to build momentum. When you make a habit of pushing yourself, no matter how small the action, it becomes easier to keep going. You begin to see results, you build confidence. The more you push, the more you realize what you're capable of. It creates a feedback loop. Each small success reinforces your belief in your ability, which propels you to tackle even greater challenges. And when you face setbacks, and you will, you have the resilience to bounce back because your consistent effort has already laid the groundwork for your success. But it's not just about pushing yourself for the sake of achievement. It's about pushing your limits for the purpose of growth, self-discovery, and transformation. As you take on challenges, you'll uncover parts of yourself you didn't know existed. You'll uncover strengths you never realized you had and learn to lean into your weaknesses, turning them into opportunities for growth. You'll see that your limits were never truly limitations. They were just markers of where you stopped trying. The more you push, the more you break free of those boundaries. And don't underestimate the power of starting small. Every action you take, no matter how tiny, has the potential to shift your mindset. These small wins add up, and before you know it, you've built a whole new version of yourself. The key is to show up and keep going. The journey may not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. When you challenge yourself, when you push your limits, you give yourself the opportunity to discover what you're really made of. In the end, the greatest gift of pushing your limits isn't just what you achieve, it's who you become in the process. Each day you step out of your comfort zone, you step into a new version of yourself, a stronger, more capable version. And that is the true power of pushing your limits.